Well, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and in celebration of the fact that not only is Metroid Dread, not Dreadpool, but Metroid Dread releasing today, so is the Switch OLED. And of course, yes, Boom does have that paid for. Mrs. Boom got me was incredibly nice enough to surprise me with not just a gift card for GameStop, my favorite place to shop, a $500 gift card, which is it, it's just too much. It really is. But I paid for my console. I paid for Metroid Dread. I got my amiibos waiting, and it's been a pretty incredible day. I opened up the door to take Mrs. Boom to work, and what's waiting there is the Far Cry 6 Special Edition, which I was going back and forth to no avail with Ubisoft customer service. I reached out to them. They didn't reach out to me. I couldn't get any tracking information. And there it was. I put it out on Twitter. If you didn't see the lifelike flamethrower, I don't know what to tell you. Go to Twitter at Mr. Boomstick XL. It's bonkers, folks. It's so real looking that if you walked out on the street, I can almost guarantee you're getting shot. You're getting killed by somebody because they think you light them on fire. It's epic. But anyway, let's get into the show. And I do want to start with something that's a little bit of a small, not tangent. I want to say something that I think is very important to me as a person. Now, Jeff Keighley, obviously host of the Game Awards, is doing something incredibly cool. He has opened up the TGA Future Class of 2021, and what this is it is 50 of the world, not just North America, of the world's most voted for or interesting content creators. And what the future class, what this initiative that he is doing for the Game Awards 2021 is, this future class recognizes individuals around the world who represent the bright, bold, and inclusive future of video games. Now, obviously, according to the press material, it says we're looking for creatives in the video game industry, content creators, esports players, and more. And of course, they do offer a form for you to fill out. Now, I had put this out there, and I had an incredible amount of people from the socials reach out to me in one form or another. I got a couple of emails. I got messages on YouTube, but more specifically, I got a ton of messages on, of course, Twitter, which is where I spend a lot of my time, and a lot of positive messages. You got a couple of knuckleheads in there that say some really terrible things, but the reason why I wanted to open with it isn't because I'm trying to push you, the listener, to vote for me. That's not what this is about. The other day, we saw a good friend of this show, a former panel member, Mr. Badbit, put his name into the hat. I went out there. Of course, I voted for him forthwith because I think Joe is an incredible kid. He's an incredible content creator. And the other day, BitCloud, who's not here yet, hopefully he will be here momentarily, put it out there that he wanted to be a part of this conversation and that he asked for people to vote for him. And of course, I did the same. I voted for him because I think he's an incredible content creator. He's a brother. He's a friend. And there was some controversy. Some POS, and I don't want to curse on the show, said some pretty racist things to him regarding his entry or his submission for it. Of course, I like a brother should, came to his aid and reported that guy and made my statement on it. Folks, listen, I want to say this. This is life-changing for any content creator that gets picked, right? So obviously, do I want to get picked? Sure. But we have someone that's also put his name into the hat, and that's called Ainsley. Ains from, who is an incredible content creator. We know that he has an outstanding website. He has an outstanding, the Bitcast podcast is just absolutely fantastic. And as a human being, he's one of the top, at least in my opinion. So my message to anyone that's going to be listening to this show is this: as content creators, we are blessed with your views and your likes, right? We are occasionally blessed with super chats and channel memberships and those kind of things. And some people have reached out to me in many past occasions. Boom, I feel bad I can't drop any money in super chat. I don't have any money to give you. That's fine. We don't do this for money, folks. We do this for the love of this community. So I'm going to suggest this: if you see your favorite content creator, whoever that may be, maybe somebody that I never even heard of, take 10 minutes of your day outside of listening to their stuff. If you truly, truly enjoy their work, their messaging within the community, their podcasts, their unboxings, their roundtables, their rants, whatever it is, if your favorite content creator is putting their name into this, take 10 and 15 minutes of your day to support them by filling out the application. Now, again, that could be whoever you feel is fits that bill, whether it's me, whether it's Ains, whether it's Mr. Badbit, whether it's BitCloud Gaming, or whoever else. Just take the time to do that. It again, you get picked for this. And I know that, like right now I'm closing in on 9,000 subs, which for me is just unbelievable because I never thought I would ever hit that. And of course, the mecca for me is the 10K. And obviously, I don't think I'm going to hit that this year. We'll get it next year, and that's fine. But if you were to get picked, Jeff Keighley's show is watched not by hundreds of thousands, but millions of people that could potentially sub and come check out your work. So if you really do care about your content creators, and again, that goes for anyone, and that's not specifically me, take the time to fill out that application for them. It is probably the greatest gift you could give them. And I'll leave it at that. But let's get into the topics. But before we do that, let's get into the, of course, intros. And we're going to start first with Dreadpool. Dreadpool, you and I were having such an amazing conversation. I literally had to stop us because we weren't recording. And we're going to get into a lot of what's been going on. The Avengers are making some waves on Xbox Game Pass. Benji Sales, friends of this community, friend of this channel for that, had some interesting stats that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Alan Wake Remastered. We're going to talk about what everyone is playing. And we have a few other topics we're going to jump into. How the heck are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. A little groggy, but that's how work is, right? Get a cat nap, and I'm here to rock and roll. So,
well, we're happy to have you here, brother, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say specifically about what we were talking about in the green room. Let's get next. Someone who missed last week because real life work sucks sometimes. He's back, and he's got the best voice in the business. Please welcome Crispy Bomb. What's up, brother? How the heck are you?
Good morning, everybody. And yes, I have my coffee, and I'm wide awake. So let's do this.
Well, it's great to have you back, dude. Definitely appreciate you being here. And someone, the linguist, the man with the biggest brain, is making his debut. Obviously, you found him on the Thursday edition of the Xbox Factor podcast, which I had to put to rest because honestly, folks, the 4 shows were killing me. Now, I'm not going to say that the fourth show will never come back because it probably will at some point. But I really kind of just needed to kind of recharge the batteries. And I did something on Wednesday and Thursday that I haven't done in a very long time. And I sat down for 4 and 5 hours, respectively, playing some games. And more specifically, Alan Wake Remastered, which is amazing. I'm a big fan of that. And I got a chance to just sit on the couch like a big old nerd and play games, and it was awesome. So, VJ, you left the Thursday show because I had to shut that down, and you're back here for Friday mornings. How are you, dude?
I'm really good, Boom, and still waking up. I'm afraid. I wish I was having some of Crispy Bomb's coffee. Yeah, no, I'm really glad to be invited onto the show, Boom, and it's much appreciated. So thank you very much.
I definitely appreciate you being here. Now, folks, we have to jump right into it. We got 140 people here. Hopefully, there are some new viewers. If you're new and you're digging it already, consider subscribing to the channel. Of course, let's hit the like button. Let's get 100 likes before we get any further. That would be really dope and greatly appreciated. But I gotta get into the stats. Numbers, opinions are like a-holes, right? Everyone has them, but it's hard to argue the numbers, the number game. And what's interesting is last week it was announced that Marvel's Avengers, that was developed by Crystal Dynamics, who is currently working with Xbox on a one-on-one project known as the Perfect Dark reboot, dropped dropped into Xbox Game Pass Marvel's Avengers. And a lot of people thought this game was dead, and for good reason. It had a few DLCs. It obviously had the Barton, which is Hawkeye DLC. It has Protege DLC, the Black Panther DLC, which is getting incredible, talk, was dropped in there. And again, numbers, folks. According to Benji Sales, friend of this community, as well as friend of this channel, he says this: Marvel's Avengers is the top 10 most popular games on Xbox Game Pass and has risen into the top 15 most played games on Xbox overall in the United States since being added to Xbox Game Pass. Now, a story that I pulled from PureXbox.com, they also investigated the UK store, and it says according to the article, looking at the UK store, it also seems to be in a fairly similar position. This could be a chance for Marvel's Avengers this could be the chance Marvel Avengers needs. And as from our own experience, the game itself is a ton of fun, if somewhat disposable. Now, of course, that's an interesting conversation. Now, Dreadpool, you and I were having a conversation, and besides this being big for Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix, there is an offset conversation that I want to have outside of the, it dropping into Xbox Game Pass, it having all its DLC, it's getting played by millions and millions of subscribers. It's in the top 15 of most played games on Xbox. And that's saying something. But here is another conversation. And again, you might some people in the chat, it's early, you may yawn on this one. My feeling on Microsoft having its own hero. Now, whether that be DC or Marvel is a conversation for another day. But if you're a stat watcher, which a lot of these businesses have, they watch the trends, they watch the stats, they watch the socials to see what people are talking about. It's real easy to get lost in, holy shit, PlayStation has Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine and the rumored multiplayer game coming out, right? And it seems as if Marvel is clearly in bed and invested in PlayStation, and for good reason. Marvel's Spider-Man, the original, sold over 20 million copies. Miles Morales, I believe, is the top-selling PlayStation 5 game. So, I mean, the numbers are there to suggest that, well, when Sony releases a Marvel game, it makes bank, right? That's we can assume that and be on the same page on by saying that. But here's the thing: Xbox is in a position where they have something that Sony doesn't, and I don't think Sony ever will. Now that potentially could change. There was a blockbuster interview with Jim Ryan, who probably made a lot of people cry, quite frankly, because he had some things to say that may piss off a lot of PlayStation purists. Now we're going to talk about that specific interview in full detail with the entire panel on Primetime Gaming on Monday, which we hope that you tune in for, because I have a lot to say about what Jim Ryan had to say. Again, this is a blockbuster article, at least in my opinion. But Dreadpool, talking about numbers, talking about stats, talking about Xbox Game Pass potentially having 30 million customers, right? But that's the rumor. That's what came out of the CEO of Take-Two. And Microsoft, they didn't deny it. All they said is that, well, publicly we've only talked about 18 million, which I think that is I think it's at the 30 million. It's hard to deny that if a Marvel game as old and as as the Avengers is, because it's considered old now, because is seeing such success, what would that mean for a new Marvel exclusive for Xbox? Right? Could we suggest that we could see a monster reception the same way it would be if it was released on Sony?
Yeah, it could, and that's the thing. I mean, you look at it right now. I said I wouldn't play this game, right? I wouldn't play Avengers. Day one that it dropped, I downloaded it and I played it. I got to the part of finding out, no spoilers, finding out who Tiny Dancer is, and we'll leave it at that, right? And I loved it. But here's my trick, and I told you in the back room. My trick was everybody was complaining how everybody, all the henchmen were OP, and you're the Hulk, man. You should be demolishing these guys, And so I decided, and I know it was a debate a few weeks ago of different level of difficulty, right? So I said, you know what? I have no interest in this game. I just want to see what it's about. And if everybody's complaining about tiny little henchmen being OP and this and that, I'm gonna play it on easy. And
That
frankly,
makes perfect sense to me.
yeah, I mean, frankly, I enjoy it. From what I played with the storyline, I haven't played as much. I mean, like I said, I only played like 6 hours worth or so. It was like a break in between working and sleeping. So, I'd assume it was about 6 hours, maybe less, maybe more. But either way, I enjoyed it, and it was, yeah, there was some little bit of difficulty there, which was odd, and I was like, wow, it's pretty sad when I'm playing this boss, because it was towards the end of where I was at, um, but the boss was like pretty difficult on easy. I was like, okay, at least I can't imagine playing on hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of the stuff was like, you got to be kidding me. That was a cheap shot. How did this happen? But it was fun. And yeah, it's surprising how something like this, like I said, right? I've always said this, when you get more information, you're allowed to change your mind. You can't be one way or the other. I can't be sitting there steadfast going, you know what? I don't care if it's free. Technically, right? It's not free, but technically, I don't care if it's free. I'm not playing it. I'm boycotting it. Well, I'm being an idiot, right? That would be it. I should at least try it out now. Now that I have a choice, I don't have to spend the money to find out that I don't like the game. There are people that spent the money and still love the game, regardless of seemingly the majority hating on it for whatever reason. But that's like I said, it's just you got to try it out. You get more information, and like I said, I listened to the community on how they were playing and what they were saying, and made my choice to play it on easy. So I enjoyed it. I don't think we want to go into that other part that we talked about. You said to hold that off, do you?
Which one was that?
The Crystal Dynamics with Xbox.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll back in the conversation with that,
I
because
just want to make sure I didn't want to go all over the place.
Yeah, that is an interesting conversation, and one that certainly could be had. That could go down around, or I like hanging out in Speculation Town. It's always sunny and 70. But you know what? Let's get Crispy Bomb's opinion on this. Now, Crispy, you have been a very big proponent and a voice for Xbox Game Pass for a lot of personal reasons, but just as a gamer, it's hard to deny what Game Pass does in a conversation, specifically when now we have stat numbers. Now, again, we're talking about the Avengers. This released well over a year ago. And outside of its recent DLC, most people weren't playing it. A lot of people passed on it. But now it dropped into Game Pass, and it's in the top 15 of most played games. That is saying something. And again, it could bring up the conversation of, well, if that many Xbox players are flocking to a game that's older, that's in Xbox Game Pass, and it's a Marvel game, can a Marvel game exclusive see success in the 20 millions that we saw with Spider-Man? I say the answer is absolutely yes. But what are your points on this?
Well, I mean, you look at it, and Square definitely is, using Game Pass to gain new revenue, and it makes total sense because at this point, everybody's sitting there like, I don't even want to purchase this game, and I was one of those people. I was like, well, I know people that really enjoy it, but from what they described, it would get really repetitive and boring for me. So I'm not going to drop the money on it, even though I love the Avengers. I love Marvel. It's just one of those things where I felt like I was hearing and looking at least from reviews and everything else, a game that felt, maybe last gen or even the gen before. A little strange feeling to that. And then even like, like what Dredd was saying, like he felt like he had to play on easy. That shouldn't happen. I mean, these are superheroes, like, you know what I mean? Like, the Hulk should, in his parts be able to just smash,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's a little strange. I mean, obviously, Marvel isn't impervious to, dumbing down the characters, like even Thor Ragnarok when he's getting electrocuted and he's the god of thunder. But that's irony. That's funny. Like, if you're not going to make that kind of funny in a way to, like, make these villains overpowered to be able to fight these guys, then you gotta, not do it to begin with. And I think, they've realized that, there is something there, like, the Black Panther DLC. A lot of people are saying great things about it. There's a reason for people to get reinterested. And the one thing about Game Pass is Game Pass really gets people to think about even purchasing the game afterwards. Because as we always say, sometimes they just pull games out of there and you don't know. But when it's in Game Pass, you get an extra discount, which is really nice. Also, with all the points you earn and everything else, like, people could be purchasing it with money they just earned through playing games, which is just crazy.
I mean, I paid for what do you call it, Alan Wake through the Microsoft Rewards. I paid $2.12 for the tax. That was it.
You know what I mean? So that's a glorious thing. Like, you hear people all the time, like, I don't have to give my kids, money for V-Bucks or whatever, because they earn it, and they'll play a Game Pass game just as it says, hey, earn rewards, and they go and play a new game just because, it gives you that little extra plus the achievement. So, I do believe that, the biggest thing is that these are superheroes. This is the Marvel universe. I think that's really helping them. It's absolutely makes sense that, a game like this, even though it seems dead, it has that clout with those characters to be able to at least gain interest. And of course, if you have Game Pass, if you love Marvel in general, you're probably inclined to at least give it a shot. And it just makes sense. And I think, Crystal and Square, they've been through a rough patch, but I hear the game is a lot better than what it was. So, you got to give them credit. They didn't just give up on it, and they found a new route to make some money because it didn't seem like they were making any then.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, Dreadpool, you want to add something to the conversation?
Yeah.
We forgot.
Yeah, I forgot. You know how we're talking about how it revitalized the game. Now, remember Outriders?
Yes.
How it put the game on the map. This Avengers was it just past week was like #1, right? And where was Outriders? They were like pretty much at the #1 spot too for a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the game was, even today, is still broken, right? But it's funny. Now, had Outriders done the same thing, do you think it would have resurfaced like this? No, it wouldn't have. It's because of superheroes, so you got to remember how certain complexities happen with these games. This is a fresh IP, had nothing to do with anything, and this is a long history of an IP over here, right? And it's making a comeback, like with a vengeance. So we got to remember how this, how Game Pass is actually helping a lot of these games. And as much as people are saying, oh, it's bad for gaming, it's bad for this. Like I said, I wasn't going to play this game. I wasn't going to play Avengers. I was boycotting it. I was upset about the Spider-Man thing, and that was my choice. I was able to feel the way I felt. And like I said, I got the chance to play it. I changed my mind. I like the game now. And that's You know, we got to remember, if Outriders was straight out buy now and then goes into Game Pass, would it have had this kind of impact, or the impact that it did on day one? No, it wouldn't have.
Probably not. Yeah.
So that was the only thing I just wanted to add to it, to kind of put a perspective on how it's actually revitalizing it. But it's a little bit, it's not just the fact that it's Game Pass itself doing the work. It's the fandom, the history and the lore, from Marvel versus a brand new game. So these publishers need to decide how they're going to put it out there. But I mean, yeah, it seems to make sense. If you're going to go day one, you're going to do good.
Yeah, I mean, again, we all thought it's funny. Obviously, Sony had the marketing rights for the Avengers. They even got Spider-Man still coming. Apparently, that's going to be a thing, and that's only available on the PlayStation, which is, again, fine. It's one of the reasons why I kind of didn't buy it initially, because I kind of felt a little slighted by that. I mean, Spider-Man is the face of Marvel, and somehow or another, Sony locked him out of a multi-plat game. That is. And again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think we're starting to see that Phil and the team are starting to realize that playing nice always isn't the answer. You got to lock stuff behind your wall, especially if you're paying for it. But VJ, before I get to your brother, I got to thank two people real quick for super chats. The first ones of the day comes to us by Drawn TJ, generous friend of the show. He drops a $5 super chat and says, "Good morning, Boom and panel." Well, good morning, Drawn TJ, and of course, Drawn TJ will be making his appearance on Primetime Gaming this Monday evening, or his return appearance, I should say, because he's been on once before. And of course, Brian Hopkins drops an outstanding and extremely generous $10 super chat and says, "Stopping by to say hi while at work. Thanks for the show. Keeps me entertained during the grind." Well, dude, thank you so much for being here. And of course, thank you for the generosity. Now, VJ, it's great to be talking games with you again, because if you don't know who VJ is, he brings a wealth of information because he has seen both sides of the conversation when it comes to gaming. He's worked in the retail aspect of it, and he's also worked in the development aspect of it. And he was obviously a powerful voice on the Thursday edition of the Xbox Factor podcast, and we're happy to have him here each and every Friday. Now, you're a numbers guy. Easy to say that. And when you look at what Benji Sales is reporting on his Twitter, it's a pretty interesting conversation when you have a game that is over a year old and came out to some controversy, not only just because of the Spider-Man DLC that was not coming to Xbox, but the fact that the game launched a little broken and has seen significant work. We do know, and this is confirmed facts, that Square Enix took a $65 million bath for this game. And it was a stinky bath, which means that they lost money. Obviously the exclusivity deal with Sony is over, which is why it's in Game Pass. Again, it was probably one of those, 1 year, 16-month, 14-month kind of a deal. And it's an Xbox Game Pass, and it's seeing significant success. Now, I don't know how that transitions to sales for the game, because it's in Game Pass, and all you have to do is have an up-to-date subscription, and you're good. Now the question is, what bag of money did they get from Xbox? And if I were guessing kind of a guy, I would say it was probably a hefty bag, and that means that they made some of that money back. And obviously, what does Xbox Game Pass need is content. And even though maybe you're not the biggest fan, I mean, Dreadpool just admitted live on the air that it was a game he wasn't going to buy. It's a game he wasn't going to play. And now he's playing it. He's actually quite enjoying it. That's thanks to Xbox Game Pass. Where do you sit in the numbers? Where this is now ranks as the top 15, it falls into the top 15 of most played Xbox games overall in the United States, but also being reported by Pure Xbox as it being very similar in numbers in the UK. Is this a big deal?
I think if it was like a one sentence answer, I think it's a win for Game Pass. But I think we have to sort of delve quite a bit deeper, which Dreadpool and Crispy Bomb have done a fantastic job of already. So I hope you don't mind if I take a bit of a long-winded approach to this.
Please, by all means. What we love about you, brother. This is a conversational podcast. Go crazy.
So I wasn't convinced. I have to be totally upfront and honest, so you know where I'm coming from, Boom. When we saw the reveal trailer last year, I wasn't convinced by the game and that it would work. And it never boded well for me that the studio began to fix, issues and concerns from the community right straight off the bat with the reveal trailer. And for me, it never quite lost that stigma. I don't know if that's fair to say. It never went on to arrest me or the general gaming public enough for everyone to go out and pre-order it or make it a day one purchase, even though everybody loves Marvel versus Capcom and the coin-op arcades. Sorry, I'm maybe going back a bit here, and all the iterations of Marvel characters when they grace video game platforms, and you could and would be forgiven, right, for not wanting to shell out $60 on an average or at best critically received title, right? And as you pointed out, Boom, I think it was like closer to $70 million, right, loss on Square's balance sheet, right, which really does attest to the commercial outcome and cements popular public and critical opinion, right? You sometimes have to heed or yield to the wisdom of the crowd and what it's saying as a whole, right? And numbers, as you say quite rightly, Boom, the numbers they very rarely lie, don't they? So, and there are other high-profile titles, Outriders, also from Square Enix and MLB, right? Hit or miss or a win. It's definitely a massive uplift for Game Pass, right? If you're a subscriber, and for whatever Xbox's long-term strategy is, right, with Game Pass, and that's and you can view it however you want to, right? And so for me, it was inevitable, right? Avengers would eventually, right, arrive in the hall or walled gardens of Game Pass, and I say walled gardens because we've talked about this on the Thursdays, right? That when Game Pass initially launched, right, it's like, oh, where they're going to find the titles? They don't have the studios. Who's going to want to put their games in Game Pass? But things have turned around. Game Pass has become a buyer's market. It's a very carefully curated and restricted range of options that you'll find in there, right? And you can't, just flock to it because you have a game that hasn't done particularly well, right? I bet there's thousands of indie game studios out there that would love to have their game in Game Pass, right?
Absolutely. Listen, though, I've talked to several developers, and again, I don't know anybody in Square Enix, but I knew several developers because I've had a chance to interview quite a few of them, and I have it on confirmed authority that there is a long-winded waiting list to get into Xbox Game Pass. You can't just drop your game in there and say, "Hey, I'm here, let's go." You got to be approved, and there's apparently a waiting list for it, and that's something to be said.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the point I was going to make, Boom, the second point. So that's a lovely segue there from you. Thank you. For big and powerful studios and companies, right, that make or invest into potentially hit games, right? Because I can tell you that Marvel Avengers license probably wasn't cheap. It's as Crispy Bomb was saying, it's a second bite at the proverbial or commercial revenue cherry, right, if you like, right? Therefore, Game Pass, if anything, affords most large publishers that can shoulder their way past, these smaller indie developers or mid-sized publishers that wield the power with platform holders, right? And they have options to pick up the phone and converse with Phil or Xbox, whoever, right, at a very high level, or vice versa, right? And so the Avengers, right, in Game Pass, and obviously Game Pass, for all intent and purposes, and I know we're talking about the game, the specific game, the Avengers here, for example, is as Crispy Bomb saying, is a shot at redemption, shall we say? So, yeah. Especially for a major title, right, tagged as AAA, right, due to investment and the investment into the IP, right, which is, and I often say, AAA is an accolade that should be earned, yeah, not earmarked, no Indeed. Game should be earmarked as AAA, right, by the public just on the premise or announcement of a trailer by first party. So for Square Enix, in this instance, Game Pass is a good thing, right, if not a blessing, right, especially, as I just said, if you're carrying a $70 million loss on your balance sheet, and let's be honest, right, we may have heard over here that Square Enix were sort of telling everyone publicly, but I bet in Japan they were bowing down to their shareholders, right, and apologizing profusely.
Yep.
And
Yes.
and you know, you'd have to say that Xbox hold and Game Pass hold all the cards, Boom, because Square Enix, you've got to be honest, that loss must be even higher, because that was pretty much a month after the game launched, and you've got to take into consideration the write-downs on physical copies that were shipped and price protected by Square Enix, right? And I know there's always creative accounting that goes on at these publishers, so we'll never know the true deficit, right, that the game incurred. But what Game Pass, and the reason why I say it's in Phil's or Xbox, whoever that team is made up with, would have gone to Square and say, yeah, you can put it in Game Pass, and Square will just put their hands up and say, you know what, there's other ways to make money from this game once it's in Game Pass, but at least it'll help us soften the blow, right, to that, that big number. And you've got to look at it like that. And you were saying earlier, Boom, right, you know, that being nice in the industry doesn't always pave the way for success. And I think that, you know, I'd expect Microsoft to be pretty ruthless with any discussions, right? Because it's got to be a game-by-game basis, not the fact that they've been, you know, fed Outriders and all that. That was, I don't know, what was it, 6 months ago? So I guess the question is, will Game Pass help Square Enix recoup some or and maybe even all of that $70 million incurred? So that's a really different thing, right? Because when all said and done, if you were a consumer like myself, Crispy Bomb, you, Boom, and Dreadpoint, everyone in the community, if you were sitting on the fence in regards to sort of trying, testing, or purchasing the Avengers game, and you're subscribed to Game Pass now, and it's in there right now for you to try, and if you want to give it a go, it'll do one of two things. It'll reconfirm you were best to avoid it, right, and thank the Lord for Game Pass, or you'll promise yourself, you know, you won't ever listen to critics or popular views again. And
that's a good point.
and let's be honest, is that failed big budget games, and the Avengers won't be the first, Boom, it won't be the last this generation, right? Arriving in Game Pass will inevitably see a huge initial spike in terms of initial engagement. And you mentioned something, Boom, you know, the official number of Game Pass subscribers is 18 million. Well, if it's the 15th biggest, you know, or in most engaged game, I don't remember the exact vocabulary surrounding it from Benji Sales, then you've got to say that number has got to be north 18, right, and closer to the 30 that's been mentioned here and there. I've forgotten who you said that mentioned. Was it Take-Two or something like that? So for me, you know, games like the Avengers.
Well, look, I'll give you a quick list of what he put on his Twitter of what Marvel Avengers has surrounding it: Minecraft, Forza Horizon 4, FIFA 21, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Destiny 2, and then you go Marvel Avengers. That is a stout list of games that it's surrounded by. That's honestly saying something.
Yeah, it does, because, you know, they don't come much bigger in known IP or pop culture popularity than the Avengers, right?
Right.
So for me, it's more about, Boom, how long will this game sustain and maintain its position? It's not a concern for Xbox. It's a concern for Square, right? 15th or whatever the position is. I don't know if it's climbed further or not. Can it climb further up the chart in lieu of the big first-party titles coming out in this month and in December, as well as Back 4 Blood, etc., etc., etc. And as for Square Enix recouping some of their, you know, some of that major loss, or some of that, Square Enix will hope to register, you know, further or material or significant income via, is it DLC, season pass sales, or microtransaction? I'm sure they've got that whole shebang going on. Otherwise, again, to any logical person, a Marvel character-based game in Game Pass is just, you know, is a blessing. But from Square Enix or from Xbox's point of view, as they're monitoring the situation, might be a flash in the pan. And I think that is what Xbox will be looking at, right, to see, okay, how far is this game really going to go, and what's our future plans for having, you know, a Marvel-based superhero game in the future. And I'm going to wrap up here. So, but you've got to look at like these big publishers spending 100, 150 million, $200 million game on a game, want to make money, and they should realize if they are headed to Game Pass so soon after its launch and having to write the game down so significantly, it's because they produced a poorly conceived and received game. And I didn't say a poor game. There is a distinction. And however, as I say to you, Boom, it's a great win for Game Pass and its library and its subscribers, and perhaps a boost to push past that 30 million subscriber base and go north of that, right? And still potentially, it still may end up still being a huge loss for Square Enix, even in Game Pass, but hopefully less of one. I hope this isn't as close as Xbox will ever get to having a Marvel superhero based game in Game Pass.
Yeah.
Then again, and I don't mean to say this in a poor way, but I had the same feeling as I did with the Avengers when I first saw the trailer. But Guardians of the Galaxy releases later this month.
Yep.
How soon before that hits Game Pass, given it's from Square Enix's Canadian contingency, right? So anyway, I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely onto something, and unfortunately, I feel Guardians of the Galaxy. First of all, what James Gunn was able to do for a franchise that no one heard of. I remember when he said he was making a Guardians of the Galaxy film, people were like, who the hell are they? Like, what are they, like a budget Avengers or something? Turns out that they were actually quite unique, and there's been a multitude of Avengers that have actually been a part of the Guardians of the Galaxies over the years, and they have a game coming out. No one's talking about it, folks. I'm not even talking about it. I'm Marvel fan number one. Am I going to get it? That's the question. Is it what? Yeah, VJ asked a great question. When is it coming to Game Pass? Well, I can guarantee you, not anytime soon, because they have a deal with Sony, and we know how Sony loves these 1 year, 2 year deals, and if we're going to get Guardians of the Galaxy, it's probably going to be this time next year. If I'm a decent guesser, I should say. I do want to kind of turn this conversation on its head a little bit and kind of hang out in speculation town. And one of our co-mayors, Pong Souls in the chat. Pong, what's up, brother? Looking forward to you and Steel Rain's show tomorrow morning. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, living split screen on YouTube, folks. If you're not watching it, you're doing it wrong. Also, and it's hard to do because I try to split up between the Gaming Circle podcast from my brothers who are on the Primetime Gaming show each and every week, Kay Asante and Everborn Saga, who's right now pitching his wares at New York Comic Con. That's right. He has got a table there. He was asked to be there for his Everborn Saga anime. And if you haven't checked that out, please support these folks because these are who you need to support in this community. They're good people. They're gamers, and they're always positive. And that's, you know what, hard to find these days because everything is negative. But these gentlemen figure it out each and every week. So get over there and check out their podcasts. I go back and forth while I'm cooking breakfast. Usually after walks, me and Mrs. Boom are up. She's playing Animal Crossing. I'm cooking breakfast, and then really she's the chef. I just make the breakfast. She does everything else. But listen, let's turn this conversation on its head, and we're gonna go down speculation town a little bit because, God damn it. Just like I'm not giving up the hope that we get a new Banjo-Kazooie. And at this point, I don't care who makes it. If Nintendo makes it, I'm cool with that. But I'm not going to give up on the fact that I still, with Cognito, are going to die on this hill that they need their own Marvel game, not to just be in the conversation. Marvel is the hottest property in the world right now. It's bigger than Star Wars. It's leaps and bounds bigger than the DCEU, which is basically flauntering as we speak because of the powers that be. They're just boobs, right? And I'm sorry to say, if you get a Batman, let's say, for instance, the whole WB, they buy WB and they get a Batman exclusive. I'm okay with that because I love Batman. He's my favorite DC character, right? I'm Marvel over DC anytime, but Marvel, I love Batman. He's one of my favorite heroes simply because he's a human being. He doesn't have powers. He just uses his noggin, and he's very rich. But I still want to kind of just turn this conversation on its head. When you look at these numbers, sure. Is this long term? Well, we're not going to know at least until next month. And I'll say this. If Marvel's The Avengers is in the top 15, top 20 of most played games on Xbox next month, this is the conversation that I think leads to, should Xbox, because again, there's a lot of talk that Crystal Dynamics is currently being quote unquote tested by Microsoft to be acquired. I don't believe that for a second. I actually think they're just going to be acquired. We have heard that the Asian side of Square Enix isn't happy with the Western of their division, and they might be looking to sell off pieces of their company. This is what Dealer had to talk about in regards to consolidation. Whether that be to add to your company or to lessen your company by selling off pieces of it. And Dealer talked about that on Mav's podcast last Friday. Of course, I'm talking about Fun Speculation, who is a part of the Tuesday show. Another fine group of people, and his show will be going live tonight at, I believe it's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dealer Gaming, friend of this community, friend of me personally, had a lot of interesting, potentially, article inducing comments. And we know that Microsoft is in the business of making more acquisitions, and that, this is quote unquote acquisition season. So it's safe to assume that, they're working with several companies like Avalanche and Crystal Dynamics. These are third party and second party developers that could potentially become first party, and I think that they should. But with the numbers that we're seeing already, for a game that's old, for a game that launched with extreme controversy, I say this, and anybody that's in this chat, we have over 300, almost 350 people here on a Friday morning. If you were a part of the conversation, whether you be an Xbox, gamer or not, this game launched with a lot of controversy because it wasn't because the game was terrible. The game wasn't terrible. It was repetitive, sure, and it needed some patches. Yes, it wasn't terrible. What it launched with controversy is the fact that Spider-Man, the face of Marvel, was not going to be on the Xbox side. I think that is preposterous. I'm going to be honest with you. It still bothers me. I'm completely honest out there. I think it's ridiculous. It's Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? He's the face of Marvel, and he's not a part of the game. Crazy. It's just crazy. But with that said, even with the controversy, even with the so-so DLC, now the Black Panther I heard is fantastic. Greg Miller, of course, of Kind of Funny. I'd love to say Greg Miller's a friend of this show. I can't say that. Maybe one day I'll get on Kind of Funny. I like it. Maybe you don't. That's fine. I like Kind of Funny. I like Blessing, and I like Tim, and I like those guys over there. So they had a lot of stuff to say, specifically Greg. Greg is a diehard fan of the Marvel's The Avengers. For me, what this says is the numbers don't lie. And Dreadpool, I want to go right back to what we were talking about. Does this potentially open the conversation to get a Marvel exclusive on Xbox? Just seeing the unbelievable rabid success of an Xbox Game Pass game that launched with controversy, launched slightly broken, and is still seeing success.
Oops, I was muted.
That's right.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
We were talking about in the green room about the potential. Does the success of the Avengers on Xbox Game Pass potentially open the conversation for Xbox to get their own hero exclusive?
Oh yes. I don't know why the mute just muted my brain too, but
that's happened. It's early, brother. It's early on Friday.
It does. It yet again, it goes to show, I mean, superhero games, it doesn't matter where it's at. Everybody wants it. Yeah, it's not everybody rented, but everybody wants it. Everybody wants to play here. Everybody wants to play there. It doesn't matter if it's a superhero game sometimes. Sometimes if it's a well-established IP, non-superhero, people still want that on their platform, right? Not saying anything about Splinter Cell, but it's just there's a lot of stuff there, right? And if you get a superhero game, it gives you a little bit more of that meat that you want when it comes to this, right? So with Xbox, now we were talking in the background, right? So I was saying, you mentioned how Crystal Dynamics was working with, like maybe Xbox buying them. And I was like, it's funny. It's a shame with Black Widow, which is available now if you have Disney Plus, right? You don't have to pay the extra money for it.
That's right. Right.
So
Dropped
now
today.
it's
The
available
other
now,
day.
right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't have been a great thing. They didn't have to buy them per se or try to buy them, but just with Crystal Dynamics already working on the Perfect Dark game, right? They've already done Tomb Raider. It's funny how they're really good with a female lead.
Yes.
You ever notice that?
Yes. A
They've done
great
very
point,
well.
dude. Great
So
point.
wouldn't Black Widow that have been a great game for them to work on? You know what I'm saying? It just seems like it's a fitting spot. And unfortunately, with them working on Perfect Dark, if they were going to get a Black Widow, we won't see it for another 10 years, at least, at the soonest, right? But that would, you look at these game companies and you look at some of the characters that they have. Everybody's like, oh, we want Wolverine, we want Cap, we want this, but you look at Black Widow and who she is and what she can do, and you look at, like I said, Crystal Dynamics, what they've done with a female lead. I think they could definitely pull it off and pull something spectacular with Black Widow that's never been done before. Literally never been
I
done
would love
before.
to see it. Like you said, you mentioned Sam Fisher. I would love to see a Black Widow game that stayed away from the Avengers. To be honest with you, I think she's an incredible character on her own if done correctly. And they kind of winter soldiered it, if you so to speak, where there were some heroes in there or villains, but if they could you imagine a character driven Black Widow game in the vein of Sam Fisher's Splinter Cell? Yes, please, I'll take it, and that would be something different. It wouldn't be just over the top. Thor coming down with the hammer. I mean, who doesn't like those games? Who doesn't like Marvel versus Capcom? In fact, a lot of people are enjoying the Avengers. A lot of people enjoyed Spider-Man for what it was.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I brought up Splinter Cell. I'd say it'd be more of a Splinter Cell / Hitman.
Yes,
something like
what a nice
between those two
combination.
versions, right? That would be the combination for Black Widow, because she does infiltrate. She doesn't do everything behind the scenes. She's there up front too, right in your face at times, and you don't even realize it. So there's your Hitman part, right? And then you do your dark scenes and everything else, aka Splinter Cell. The old school Splinter Cell, not old man Sam, but young man Sam.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, again, I see a lot of people going back and forth in chat, which is great. We love that. We love when people have conversations, adult-like, because no one's cursing, no one's getting out of hand. I love it. Shout out to Sarah Smith in the chat, who's really, really bringing some good points. And she says their best chance is not in with the Marvel Universe. They need WB games or other ones like Invincible or Spawn. And that's a great point, because Invincible is hot. Right? They, that series came out for Amazon, shocked a lot of people. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't think the artwork was, mind blowing. It was good, but it was fantastic. And Invincible game would be pretty epic, to be honest with you. But I like the WB angle. To be honest, if they're gonna go all in on heroes, right? I want to see them purchase WB, for and lock up the exclusive Batman IP. That would be pretty epic. And that would be a good way to challenge Sony on the Marvel. Now, I still think Marvel's way bigger than DLC, but but to be honest with you, if they had their own, they can do their own thing with a Batman. They could do their own Justice League. There's so much that they could do with some of those characters, and especially those studios. I still want to see Mortal Kombat come to Xbox as an exclusive, because I think they need a fighter. And I think that because Ed Boon has already talked about wanting to do the next Killer Instinct, and they, according to Matt Booty and Phil Spencer, they don't have a studio to do that. Well, there's your answer. Buy a studio. You're Microsoft. You can afford it. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I do want to move on to Crispy Bomb. Crispy, you see the numbers, right? People are talking about the Avengers. It is trending. The Avengers are trending, not for the the conclusion to What If that just happened on Wednesday. Not because we're getting new information on Spider-Man No Way Home and Into the Multiverse of Madness and what's going to happen with the Avengers. It's trending now because the Avengers game is trending on Xbox Game Pass. That says to me, and that's just my opinion, that there is room, and it opens up the potential to get an Xbox exclusive Marvel character. I don't know. Again, we will never actually know, folks, what the minutia of the contract to keep Spider-Man in the MCU has to do with gaming. We'll never know. We're not in those conversations, so we're just guessing. But my question to you, Crispy, does the success of an old game that launched with controversy show both Xbox and Marvel that there is in fact room for an exclusive Marvel character, and that it could potentially do as good, even better than Spider-Man 2018?
I think they know that, but I mean, Sony has all the cards right now because of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, I think. I think that's why you see, like, they grabbed Wolverine. That's one that, Marvel at this point, because, it took a lot to get the X-Men or whatever they're going to call them down the road into the, under the hands of Marvel and Disney, and that, purchasing a lot. Like, if you watch Disney, they've been buying so many things. It's insane. So, maybe that was something that they just negotiated. Maybe that was part of when they were having issues with the Spider-Man being a part of the Marvel universe completely. Maybe that was part of the negotiation. You don't know. The one thing I'll say is that I feel like the biggest problem with Marvel's Avengers is they really didn't. I don't feel like a lot of people bring up the character building. And I think that's something that, Marvel has to really step in and kind of, even with the Guardians of the Galaxy right now, you don't feel like you're just thrown into a story from what I'm seeing thus far.
Yeah, the marketing has not been good, dude. I'll say that. Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, at this point, I almost feel like Marvel's probably looking at Square Enix and being like, you guys don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? And that's where you go and say, you're not getting these licenses from here on out. So you could go and say, because now you see Crystal Dynamics is going to be working, and a lot of that team, if not all of them, could be going over to the Initiative and working on Perfect Dark. So why in God's name would Square all of a sudden be renting out Crystal Dynamics? You know what I'm saying? That's basically what they're doing.
Yes.
So that's one of those things where you go and say, could it be, that Microsoft's thinking of acquiring them and it, really like maybe just become a part of the Initiative? That's possible. I don't think that's the case. I think, at this point, they don't know what they want Crystal Dynamics to work on, because it's been a pretty rocky road since Tomb Raider. You know what I mean? So now it's like, what are we going to do here? And I think this is a perfect time to, get a little kickback from them working with the Initiative, and whatever happens after that, we'll never know. But, we all want a superhero, but at the same time, we also know that, all these games have their own, or all these gaming companies have their own superheroes in their own retrospect. Like Halo, Master Chief is a hero, you know what I mean? But at the same time, a lot of superhero games, besides the very few, like, Spider-Man 2018, stuff like that, have either, done decently or just done really poorly. And this goes throughout my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, like, I feel like, games like, Batman, the Arkham series, like, it did a lot of character building. And I feel like that's what Marvel's missing right now in the gaming aspect, besides Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it can be redone. Like, you can go back and do another Avengers with a different company and make it much better than what people are saying right now. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like, we want superhero exclusive on Xbox, but it depends on what's in the cards right now.
Yeah, I agree. And you make some great points. VJ, let's get your final point on this, and then we'll move on to one of the bigger topics of the show. And that, of course, is the new rumor that's floating around And I had a few of my, again, folks, listen, I have sources. I do. I have, they're small, they're probably not widely known, which is great. I like the the relationships I have with people that reach out to me that I trust with certain information. And the second half of the show is going to be talking about the rumored prototyping of an Xbox Series S handheld. I have this on 2 different sources that say that they are at least prototyping the idea. We will get into what I think about it and why I believe it is a big deal for Microsoft momentarily. But VJ, I want to get your opinion on this. Listen, we talked about numbers. You had an amazing rebuttal to the conversation that we had to open up today's show. I want to grab your ear on this one. Again, numbers, they don't lie. Right? They're usually the outlier for a conversation when you're going to make an investment or when you're going to attempt to make something new. Marvel is a hot IP. It is an IP that Sony seems to have fully grasped. They have already 2 successful games under their belt in Spider-Man 2018 and the follow-up Miles Morales. Now, whether you consider that DLC or not, I thought it was a fantastic game. And now, of course, Spider-Man 2 is going to feature not only both Spider-Men, it's going to feature Kraven the Hunter and, of course, Venom, which is hot right now because obviously Venom, Let There Be Carnage is just wrecking the ticket sales at the box office. And of course, they announced Wolverine. Logan is one of the most revered characters in Marvel. I would dare say that he is potentially as popular as Spider-Man himself. And when you see these numbers for Avengers, and again, the game launched with controversy. It launched with not working the greatest, and it's still finding a way to be a top played game in Xbox. For me, from a numbers point of view, not a fanboy point of view, it says that there's a potential to see a successful or as successful Marvel exclusive. Let the Coalition make a Punisher game. Why not? Let's see a Daredevil game. Let's see a Black Panther game, for that matter. I don't care who it is at this point, but I think it could be done by one of the teams they currently have. What are your thoughts on this, dude? Does this open the conversation between Xbox? Because money is usually the end thing in a conversation. If you give enough at it, everyone is willing to bend.
Okay, so there was quite a few things that Dreadpool and Crispy Bomb covered. So I just wanted to cover the crystal dynamics quickly and then answer your question. I think I was just thinking about crystal dynamics, and you got to realize today it isn't the same fantastic studio that reimagined Tomb Raider the release was in 2011, so that studio was probably formed in 2007, 2008. And again, it's not the same studio back then that took on the Avengers project, and perhaps that's something to do with Daryl Gallagher departing for pastures new and taking some of the key folks with him, which was documented. And I think a few went to Sony Santa Monica, I believe, courtesy of Corey, right, while he was under the purview of Daryl. And Crystal Dynamics wasn't or isn't quite as sharp or at the peak of its powers as it once used to be, because I think Daryl, and I've said this to you before, Boom, he should have taken Matt Booty's place at the company. He was the pivot between a Japanese-based company and a Western studio, right?
Yep.
And if you look at Capcom, they had the same issues with Ninja Theory, right? When they were creating DMC, they invested 40, 50, 60 million pounds at the time. Sorry, I don't know how many dollars that was at the time. And it didn't quite work out for them. And so Japanese companies have a history of working. I think even Nintendo have a history of working with Western developers, which don't always quite work out, especially if you don't have the right person in charge or looking after all the stable studios, as I say. And when Daryl was there, and that's why I always said to you, I said, you know what? If there needs to be an upgrade in the Xbox management, it's definitely Daryl's. But I think he had his eyes on actually running a studio for himself rather than looking after several studios. I think it was a mistake, but that's just my point of view. So when it comes to Crystal Dynamics, from any of the sort of logical point of view or mindset, it's now sits as an unquantifiable or unknown commodity, and at best, an outsourcing outfit from Square Enix. At least that's how they've dressed it up, especially when they're not entrusting the studio with a shiny big new project. Whatever the scenario, predicament, or picture you want to paint, using your imagination in regards to Crystal Dynamics, you're free to do so. And Crystal Dynamics' best scenario right now, prior to due diligence, perhaps it's a satellite studio, just like Bethesda has many of supporting Starfield. I don't know, but I think the IO Interactive departure from Square Enix, Ninja Theory departure from making big budget games for big publishers should just give you an inkling of the diversity or the difference, or let's put it really simply, the difference in production methodologies between Japanese publishers and developers as well as Western ones. And in terms of sort of Xbox and Marvel, there's loads of games that they could make, Boom, but I don't want to go down that passage. It might be until tomorrow, blowing away theories with you. But I'm not sure what Xbox's entire visible strategy to us is right now. Just like with Ninja Theory, we've come to learn that they've spent the last 2 or 3 years actually restructuring their studio to be able to make a cutting edge game going forward, and that's why they're still in pre-production. Whether they're in full production or not right now, I don't know. But but as it says us saying, I don't know Xbox's strategy when it comes to licensed content. And you might be able to correct me here because you know a lot more about this than me. But you would think with the pursuit or purported pursuit of Warner Brothers, you would be forgiven for assuming Xbox were not just looking to acquire Warner Brothers and their studios to bolster, their first party offerings, but they would also pay to include certain licenses and properties for an ongoing period of time or specific projects, right? And I'm trying to rack my brains here at the same time. Is that, just for a quick check, as to right now, what internal studios at Xbox are actually prepped and ready, right, in order to create something that would plug, as many of us see, right, in the Xbox community, a blatant and a relevant gap, right, or a major schism, if you prefer, in terms of content being offered, and that's a Marvel game, right? And from a business point of view, right, I think Xbox have gone to pains to tell us, look, it's not just about selling a console. It's not just about us producing games for a minority of fans to enjoy, on an exclusive basis. The strategy is also about Game Pass, about bringing that to the masses, right, to the hundreds of millions or billions or whatever they've promised their shareholders, right? Whether it's a moonshot or a promise they can deliver on, we don't know. But shouldn't that promise be delivered based on diversity in terms of content, inclusivity of about inviting everybody, because there's something for everybody within the ecosystem? And
yes,
so you'd have to say that Marvel has to be a part of that equation, or DC for that matter, right? And that's
look, let me just stop you there, because you made a fantastic point. Listen, I've said this on the Xbox Factor podcast. I've said this on Primetime Gaming, and I'll say it again on Breakfast with Boom. There are 3 holes in the portfolio for Xbox as a platform, but more specifically for Game Pass. They don't have, okay, and I say they don't have the family-friendly mascot platformer. Now, you can argue with me and say Psychonauts, and I would argue with you and say, well, that's not really family-friendly, because that is telling a story of potentially mental illness and a few other things that are adult themed, being addicted to gambling, drinking, things of that nature. That's not kid friendly. Kid friendly is Banjo-Kazooie. That's kid friendly. They have the IP. They don't have that game. I don't know why. Killer Instinct. Right now, Sony is wiping the floor with them when it comes to the fighting. Now, you maybe you don't like BlazBlue. Maybe you don't care for King of Fighters. Maybe you don't care for Street Fighter V. Maybe that's not your bag. Maybe fighters aren't your thing. They're my thing. And that's a big, big hole in there. And what's also missing in there is a superhero, an over-the-shoulder, story-driven type of hero game, which Sony has all 3 of these things in spades. And again, not saying that I want Microsoft to be Sony and Sony to be Microsoft. That's not the conversation here.
No.
I'm saying that the very blatant holes that you're talking about, this is one of them, VJ.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a console and a console manufacturer with a load of studios. We're talking about a subscription service, right? And what that entails and requires in order to succeed. And Xbox cannot be equally naive or hubristic. I'm not saying they aren't. I'm just saying they can't be, right? and therefore pick and choose what they want to create, right? Because they have an audience to serve, especially since they need to cater for a larger audience, right, in the future, which is their plan, which is their business plan, which they've gone on television and all the finance channels and said it is, right? And if they truly have their business sites on a 50 million plus subscriber base by the end of this year and whatever it may be over the next 4 or 5 years, then perhaps they need to consider that not everybody wants to play Halo, Forza, and Starfield, right? I know I go on about them.
I want to play them, but you're onto something. Again, having diversity in your portfolio brings in, you said it, everyone.
Yeah, and that's got to be that's got to be their master plan, their web that they want to weave, right?
Yes.
And Xbox need to continually evolve their content pipeline, and far more than Sony. I think they need to be far more agile in what they do and how they and I think that they already know this, because you only have to look at the diversity in the studios that they picked up in 2018, right? They already had this in their mind, right? And I think the issue is, Boom, it's not as easy as saying, hey, look, you know what, we want to make a Marvel superhero game. I get that. And just before I go on to that, I just want to say, right, you only have to look at Netflix. They don't hold the same sway or intrigue for me since the cancellation of Daredevil and Punisher. And like from a layman's point of view, and from a narrow perspective, I don't see, like, off the bat any, maybe just because it's early here in California, I don't see any studio within Xbox Game Studios that is available in the next few years that could attempt to make a Marvel game. And it's not just because they don't have the talent, they do, but studio structure, resources, it's all about those things, as well as it is about technology, pipelines, knowledge, mindset, storytelling. You know, we talked about all the facets of development so many times amongst, you know, and there's dozens of facets, right, and dimensions to a studio. And that's what sometimes always baffles me, right? When they set up the initiative, right, and we didn't know much about it, and I read the venture beat and everything that, you know, all the jargon that Daryl went on about, right, which I kind of have issues with still today, right? But I was thinking to myself, when A Perfect Dark was released, why bother, right, setting up a studio with experienced third-party, you know, developers from Naughty Dog, from Santa Monica, and all Call of Duty, you know, in terms of the technical talent, not in terms of third person titles, and go off and make a first-person shooter. It didn't make any sense to me, and that's a completely different topic. I've got loads of views on that, but that's not for today. And for the end of the day, for me, Xbox would, of course, benefit from a Marvel or DC character game, but I just don't know if they're ready, if they've got it in their wheelhouse, and maybe that's where they are at, Boom. Maybe that's what they're prepping for right now.
Yeah,
I just don't know. Sorry.
No. I mean, you're absolutely right. We don't know because they're not talking about it, right?
No, yeah. Sorry, Boom. I just want to wrap up, and then you can kick me off. If they did make a technological, cutting-edge, single-player, narrative-driven, Marvel character-based video game, or Batman, if you prefer, could they do a decent job? I'm sure they could, right? They've got the resources and talent across all the studios. So I'm thinking they may have to form another studio secretively, Boom, and then announce it at the Game Awards at the end of the year. Look, I don't know if Phil sees 5 years. I want to be really honest with you, Boom. I don't know if Phil sees 5 years and $250 million spent on such a game as part of their strategy, because I want it to be good. You know, I want it to be cutting edge, and that's why, you know, maybe that is why they went after Warner Brothers, and they still may do, right? Because the prerequisites already there, still standing for them in rock steady, right? And having said that, surely if Xbox can't secure a Marvel game, I'm like you, Boom. I don't know everything that goes on in the industry, but I'm like you, Boom. I sometimes wonder, why aren't they in the conversations, right? And if you haven't got a Marvel game exclusive, why aren't you in the why aren't you in the marketing rights discussion for Harry Potter or Suicide Squad or even Gotham Knights, right? Other upcoming ones. But I'm going to stop there, Boom, because I might go.
No, you again, this is why we love having you on the show. You bring a lot of logic to the conversation. Real quick, we got some breaking news. We're not going to get into it because I have to investigate it further. I may bring this up as a topic for primetime gaming. Thanks to Dreadpool, we have it on good authority that Rockstar just tweeted out the confirmation of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. This has been confirmed by Rockstar Games' official Twitter account. It's already. Listen to this, folks. This goes to show you how fever pitch people are for Grand Theft Auto news. The tweet 14 minutes ago, and it has almost 26,000 likes. I mean, Jesus Christmas. And this is what it's a trailer. If you go over to Rockstar Games, you can check out the trailer. It's basically it's like a slideshow of all of their games from this trilogy, and it's called the Grand Theft Auto the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. And this is what Rockstar had to say. They say later this month marks a very special anniversary for Rockstar Games' 20 years since the original release of Grand Theft Auto 3. In addition to carving a new path for the open world genre, Grand Theft Auto 3 established GTA as a cultural phenomenon alongside its two subsequent and equally legendary entries into the series with Grand Theft Auto Vice City and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Apparently these are going to be coming in the trilogy. It simply says at the end of the 25-second trailer, coming soon. So there you go, folks. Breaking news: Rockstar has announced the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, the definitive edition. I don't know what they're going to do in regards to upping the graphics. I hope they do something because those graphics are really old. Those are really old games. I don't know if they've been working on it behind the scenes and we're going to get. I mean, if they could bring it up to the level of GTA 4 when it was on the 360, I would be okay with that. That would be much better. But we'll see, and I'm sure we'll get some more information as soon as I get some some more information, and I'm sure people are going to reporting on it. I will potentially talk about this with the guys on Monday's Prime Time Gaming. But folks, listen.
Boom. I'm
yes,
sorry.
sir. Yeah.
I can't take the credit for that. Mo in chat.
Oh, well, Mo.
He posted it. I relayed it to you. So
well, Mo, thank you very much for that. And sorry I didn't give you the credit. I saw Mo. It's an MOH, and I was like, I don't know Mo breaking, but now I know Mo. Congratulations and thank you for dropping that into the into our laps. That's big news. But let me catch up with some of the super chats. I'm going to get right into the rumored Xbox Series S handheld. Aaron JF94 drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Guardians will see you on Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, I believe it will be. I just don't think it's until next year. JC Claramore drops a $2 super chat and says, then I can get a Shazam game. Yeah, I mean, Shazam is a good character. I don't know if he can hold his own game, but it depends on who does it. I mean, could you imagine if Ninja Theory did their own hero game, licensed hero game, how amazing that would be? Forget about it. We also have God the Blessed One drops a very generous $5 super chat. Love the name, dude. He says DC won't cut it. Gotta be Marvel. As far as Black Widow, be like Hitman. Disney owns Marvel, so Gore isn't going to happen. Yeah, I mean, Gore probably wouldn't happen. Yeah, I definitely think you're onto something with that. But let's get into, of course, what we've been all waiting to talk about, what I advertise. Folks, listen, again, I have small connections. They're small to me. I'm a small channel. And again, you take everything that I'm going to say with a grain of salt. I did have it confirmed that it is rumored that Microsoft is currently prototyping an Xbox Series S handheld. Now, there's going to be pushback on this conversation. And that pushback is going to come in the form of, boom, they don't need it. You can play on your phone, your tablet, your toaster. But here's where I push back. I don't know about you personally. I was in a part of xCloud, months and months before it became available for everyone else. I had a chance to sit down and play with it. I still have the Kishi device for it. I've tried out other devices. I'm going to be honest. I don't like playing on my phone. In fact, I hate it because I keep my phone in a case. So if it drops, it doesn't get destroyed. So if I want to play on said device, I got to take it out of the case. I got to put the things on, and then I got to shut off notifications because someone might text me, or someone's dropping something into my DM, or a new video from the Den of Nerds dropped up. That's a big pain in the ass. I don't want to play like that. Now, granted, I could play on a tablet, and I have a nice one. I have a Samsung Galaxy tablet. I think it's 12 inches. Put the wireless controller, you're good to go, and you're playing technically on the go, sitting wherever you're playing. But I am still going to, again, one of these die on hill situations. I think that Microsoft needs its own dedicated handheld, because we've seen that a dedicated handheld with quality games can bring you huge amounts of money. We've seen that with the Switch. As a matter of fact, the OLED Switch is releasing today. And even though I have 2 Switches, I'm going out and buying it because I play portable now. Me and Mrs. Boom, every night we play Animal Crossing together. She's on the big screen, and I'm sitting there on the portable mode. And 6 months ago, it was the opposite. I never left my thing undocked, ever. But now that I play, and she's on the big screen, I want the OLED. Now, a lot of people, kind of funny, talked about the other day. Quite a few people talked about the OLED being like really an upgrade in visuals. I can't wait to get mine. I'm running the hell out of here after this show is done to go get it. And I'm, of course, getting Metroid Dread and the matching amiibos to go. But with that said, I still think it is money being left on the table. Now, you can argue that Microsoft is a little bit shy in the peripheral aspect of things because they got burned, and they got burned bad with the Kinect 2.0. Not the first one, the second one. And that's because, the proper people weren't leading Xbox at the time. Good old Donnie D, his thing is TV when we just want to play games. And we know about the human roadblock, known, to many in the industry, that blocked Phil from making a lot of big moves. And now Phil's running the show. I think that a portable Xbox Series V or S or whatever you want to call it would be big, because obviously they're not going to make these games on cards like they do for Switch. This would be a device that uses Project xCloud, and that you can play your Xbox Game Pass games on there. Do they have to make it themselves? I personally don't think that they do. I think they can go third party and have someone make it. Someone had brought up in a conversation, and I don't recall who actually said this. Obviously the Steam Deck is coming out, right? I have mine pre-ordered. I'm getting the big boy. Now, do I actually need it? No. Do I want it? 100%. Maybe all those conversations with Gabe Newell were somehow working into partnering with Steam to have an Xbox dedicated device that maybe is white. Maybe it is a version of the Xbox Series S, and Steam is making it. I don't know. We're not going to know until someone talks about it. But I'm going to go first to Dreadpool on this. Dreadpool, in your opinion, seeing how well the Nintendo Switch is doing, an underpowered console, unbelievably underpowered, 720p, sometimes even less than that, still making bank though. Could Microsoft find a partner? And do you think it would be profitable to have their own dedicated xCloud device that's not a phone, that's not a tablet, that's not your app on your TV?
And that's the funny thing is they don't need to.
You're absolutely correct. They do not need to.
Right. But that's what I was getting at is, we all have cell phones. We all play cell phone games. We all are streaming from the cloud now on the cell phone. Now we're able to stream on our consoles. We're going to be able to stream to the TVs, but we want a portable, the portability. So you mentioned the tablets and phones, right? So when it comes to that, you still have that issue of connecting and utilizing your phone at the same time while you're playing, you know, so you have those little nuances that pop up. Someone calling you, someone texting you, you either ignore it or you see it, and it blocks the game up a little bit. You know, it doesn't really affect it that much, but it throws it off, right?
Right.
So Steam Deck is coming out. Obviously, they see a market there. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't think there was a market. And for all you guys, my opinion, the lower version of the Steam Deck, I would never get. I would get either the 2 higher versions.
Yes.
Because the NVMe is in the 2 higher ones, and then the other one is just a jump drive, or not really a jump drive, but one of those micro SDs. It's just not going to be fast enough to do a lot of things. So when it comes to that, that's where I would head off to, and I'm still trying to figure out which one I want. I'm probably going to go for the higher tier one just because, you know, more power, right? Or Tim, the Tool Man Taylor, more power. So, yeah, and then you talk about Nintendo, right? Nintendo is doing fantastic to the point that they said, you know what, we're going to get rid of the docking station and just sell you
just a mini
portable
version
of our console without the Joy-Cons being removable, and it's still blooming. So for them to do that, and now they're coming out with, you know, the new OLED version of it that's apparently a game changer in that part of Nintendo, right? Not in the industry, in that part of Nintendo, right? Let's not get it, you know, give it too much props, but give it some props that Nintendo's doing something. At the same time, you know, you look at it, if it's doing that well, Steam Deck is coming out. It makes sense to look into it, right? They already looked into it way back when. If you've ever watched the old IGN interviews, they talked when they interviewed Xbox head of Xbox people. I forgot who said it. One of them said that they were actually looking into making a handheld during the 360 days. And they were going to call it X-Boy, right? And I was like, that sounds great to me.
Name, but yeah, I remember that.
Well, you know, it was just the name that they threw out there because Game Boy was the thing, and Xbox, and, you know, and yada yada. There you go, X-Boy. So yeah, a terrible name, but it made sense. And I was like, when I heard it, I was like, yeah, I want that, you know. But yet again, we're doing with cloud. What does cloud have that a handheld doesn't? Right? It's got the cellular part. But what happens when you have no connection? Because I drive out in different areas and where, you know, where I work, where I literally lose cellular connection. There's no Wi-Fi, and I'm out on the road. There's no cellular. I am in dead zones still, right? Still to this day, we have dead zones, which is surprising. But if you know, I'm out somewhere and I'm on a game, guess what? I can't game. I can't do anything. I can't game locally until they make the cloud services, or at least the Xbox games, downloadable on your phone and do it that way. Then it would make sense. So overall, Nintendo's pretty much got it in there, you know, the right momentum and the right strategy, right? So for, you know, double backing now, for Microsoft to do something or Xbox to do something like that, it would make sense. Is it feasible though? With everything else that they're doing, they're reaching everybody. Is it feasible for them to do something like that, or would it be feasible for them to back end onto a Steam Deck and be able to get your games that way? You know, so maybe there'll be a deal there. I mean, we do have gaming on your browser. I mean, I tried that out too, and that works well. Yet again, certain games benefit better than others when you're using a service like that. But yet, you know, let's double back again. What happens when you have no internet, right? You're able to still play. You know, we lose power down here in Florida. We have hurricanes running right up the coast. I've got friends up north that still, you know, they got flooded. They lost everything, you know, in that flood, you know, so they lost all their computers, all their retro stuff, everything, their collectibles, everything in that garage, in the basement flooded. They flooded the house, not just the basement. So when you look at it like that, yeah, what are you going to do? You can't go online. You can't do nothing to keep yourself going. A couple of years ago when we had the hurricane come through, I stayed home for a week. The first day we were at each other's throats, right? So I had my family, my wife's family, her, you know, her mom and family and all that. And I had my best friend over also because he was in a spot where he couldn't be there or where he was living. So we're all on each other's throats. What did I do? I still had power using my let's say electric inverter, and I powered up the internet. The internet was still working. So I powered up my modem, my router. We all dispersed into our own little sections and we were able to play games and watch movies and all that. Okay, so when you look at it like that, having a Nintendo Switch with a game already there would have been a godsend for one of us, right? So for Microsoft to do something like that would be a godsend. These are small little, offset scenarios, but in the bigger picture, it happens all the time. We have hurricanes every year. There's people up north that have tornadoes. There's people on the other side that have earthquakes. There's infrastructure that shuts down that will stop you from getting on. I mean, Scrub Nurse, friend of your show and part of our show too.
Yep.
It's like, yet again, he's been having some internet outages for whatever reason. We don't know. But he's been having issues with that. How's he supposed to game? He's got a Nintendo Switch. He can still game.
Yep,
You know what I mean?
sure could.
So he could still play some Xbox games. He wouldn't be able to play online, but yet again, it gives you that opportunity to be able to quick play something, and it's not using your phone. It's not using your data. It's something else. So like I said, hurricane time, we had to worry about keeping our phones charged. Stuff like that. So I was able to make it so we could keep our phones charged, get online, keep ourselves in a respectable manner with acting to each other, being locked up and not being able to do anything or go anywhere because nobody had anything.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, it would make sense to bring something out. But money wise might be the issue, because if they're going to try to address it to get the most amount of people, will that be enough of a factor for them to bite?
I mean, listen, it really depends on the audience that you're looking to garner. We understand that Xbox Game Pass is a platform that transcends just more than your TV. It's a service. They want this to become the Netflix of gaming, and the way that you can do that is, again, I understand that they're already offering the ability to play on a multitude of places, your refrigerator, your TV this full with the app, hook up a wireless controller and go. But I still think that there is room for this. And it doesn't have to be a $600 Steam Deck. It can be a $300 device. It can be a $250 device. I mean, look. All I can say is look at how underpowered the Switch Lite and the Switch are, and they still are making bank. Crispy, let's grab your opinion on this. Where do you fall? I mean, listen, again, the argument could be had that Microsoft does not need a portable. And you know what? I probably couldn't argue with that. But the fact that they don't have that as a part of their conversation when we're seeing Nintendo do really well with it, why not have that have the ability to have your own dedicated portable? And again, I don't know who they could partner with, and is it going to happen? No, because they're having a hard time getting consoles built. So this is not something that's going to happen this holiday season or even next holiday season for that matter. Where do you fall in this conversation?
I mean, we could say what we want, but their main goal is to try to reach 3 billion gamers. How do you do that? Well, the cloud services help, and all their glory and all of their issues they can have. But the biggest thing is you go and look at certain markets and you say, how does the Switch continue to just destroy all of these next gen consoles? And you say, well, maybe it's possible that you just can't get enough. Or is it that they want to play on the go? And there's plenty of people that don't want to use their phone for probably reasons that you brought up at the beginning of this topic. So you go and look at those aspects and you say, if their goal is to reach 3 billion people, you have to provide the most options out of any gaming company. And I think that starts with bringing a handheld out there and also bringing a dongle for TVs that don't have the ability to download the app. Because regardless of what people think, even myself in my bedroom, I have a TV that has like the oldest app. It's like a Yahoo app. Like it downloads from Yahoo, which it hasn't been updated in like 10 years. It feels like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, how could I really play games? Like, how can I, like it has Netflix, but I don't have Amazon Prime. I don't have any of that stuff. So then, we had to go and get a Roku. So, that's why Roku's still in business, because people have those TVs that are still, it's a 1080p TV. It has a good frame rate and everything else, but it's not there for, connecting to the internet and having new apps on there. Like the thing's probably maxed out already, and it basically has Netflix on there. So, you go and look at those things and you say, okay, Xbox has a reason to bring out these things. Now, do they do it? And who do they partner with? Well, I don't think they need a partner. I think the Surface team could clearly make
no doubt about that. I agree 100%.
So the Surface team could clearly go on that route and work with Xbox, work with Jason Ronald or whoever they got to kind of implement what needs to be implemented to make this a successful product. I also think they would go the route of trying to undercut anybody and going in like a $200 range, because I think if they're able to do that, it's really going to, bolster the views on this and being like, dude, I only got to spend $200 for this. That's even cheaper than a phone. You know what I mean? So let's look at it that way. Also, like they said, the cloud services, they're targeting 1080p right now. So you could come out with the same type of screen that the Switch OLED has.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it still would be relevant. And, you'd be able to have that back end of the cloud to help. And that's one thing you also look at. They're not looking to, create little cartridges or discs for this thing. They're going to use the internet and the 5G that is continuing to kind of spread across at least America, and I'm sure it's actually probably even in a bigger way in Japan and other places.
Yeah, their internet structure there makes ours look like you're putting the strings together with cans. That's how advanced they are.
And that's the point. Like, so that's why you see that the Switch is still in Japan killing all the other consoles, killing them.
Think about this for a second. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a really incredible part of the conversation I want you to run with. Just imagine where is the Xbox trying to win? #win for Xbox. It's in Korea. It's in Japan. In these regions that were console giants at one point. You were talking 10 years ago. They have moved into a portable handheld market, which is, again, what you said, why the Switch continues to dominate the conversation. They're not buying these big, gaudy consoles. They're just not doing it anymore. Sure, are there gamers that do? Yes. But a handheld Xbox that allowed you to pay $15 a month and play nearly 500 games that it has now, and by simply downloading it, would be unbelievably popular, and it would move Microsoft and Xbox into the conversation, because not only could you buy a console, not only could you play on your refrigerator or your toaster or wherever you want to play, but you can go get this nice shiny new piece of hardware that's $200 or $300 that rivals the Switch because of the games that it can play. Dude, you're onto something with this.
And it's just like I said before, like if you provide the options, like there are probably plenty of people that are playing xCloud in Korea and Japan right now. But the thing is but the thing is like, why is the Switch still, so popular? If you could just play everything on your phone. I mean, there's even Nintendo has games out there on your phone. You know what I mean? So let's be honest, like there is a subset of the population that wants that dedicated gaming console, and it still be a handheld. And that's why I say Xbox, if you're going to do it, the time is now. Now, the problem we're going to get into down the road is these chips, and that's the biggest thing for all of these companies right now, and it's going across the board. So maybe it's not the right time, but maybe an announcement for when the right time is would be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Review Tech USA, Rich. Again, I like his stuff. He's not a friend of the program because I've never talked with Rich. So I can't actually say that. But he actually just did a video that I watched that he believes, based on some information he put in that video, that the shortage could potentially be coming to an end sooner than it's anticipated. And again, that would be, I mean, again, all I've heard is that they are prototyping, they're testing. They're internally testing a handheld Xbox in the form of a Series S. Again, that's what my connection says. I believe them. And in fact, he even brought in 4 different other opinions from other sources that we trust, and they kind of heard the same thing as well. It's an interesting conversation, one of which I now want to pass the microphone over to VJ. Now, VJ, again, you are a numbers guy. You worked in the industry from both sides of the coin. You worked in sales. You worked in production of games. This is an interesting factoid. Now, the question that could be answered promptly, in my opinion, is: does Microsoft, quote unquote, need a handheld? And some people would argue, well, boom, they don't, because you can play everywhere. But with that said, there are gamers like me who refuse to play on a phone because I have too much going on in my life with my phone. I'm not going to buy a second phone to play xCloud. That's ridiculous. For that matter, give me a handheld.
No.
Do you think the market potentially is primed for a Microsoft or an Xbox handheld that is powered by the cloud, that will use Xbox Game Pass to its advantage?
I'm just going to leverage something Crispy Bomb said. We're back to balancing the equation of diverse options to achieve inclusivity and mammoth growth. I was going to say massive growth, right? Massive or mammoth growth for Game Pass, as I said, Crispy alluded to. So I think you've got to take a step back. I don't doubt that Xbox are constantly in the midst of researching and developing various new proposals, many that we don't even know about, right, for the future. How technically far off a Series S is from, say, the Microsoft Surface Duo type device, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say here, what I'm hinting at, is that Xbox and its sister divisions aren't too far away from realizing a potential something or other. I don't know if I'm out of order in saying that, but I'd put my hat on that. And Microsoft as a company, as large as they are, and given the billions that they spend every year in R&D, are well within their rights and within the realm or vicinity of making most things a reality. And if Game Pass or cloud gaming, I think this is a couple of things that Dreadpool said that got my brain ticking. If Game Pass or cloud gaming via mobile devices, which you're not a fan of and neither am I, Boom, isn't being adopted at quite the rate that Xbox predicted, which was always an inevitability. I'm not saying it's the case, but it's an inevitability. And when you're investing the kind of money Xbox or Microsoft are into the Xbox division, that sort of thing would appear in any competent SWOT analysis, right, produced from the outset, right, before moving ahead with this generation, right? So, and you got to take into consideration, that yes, okay, Android, accessing certain Xbox games via your phones, do have special built-in, touch screen controls for the latest games, but it's still not exactly the same experience, is it? Along with the issue of, and I don't know if it's still an issue, so you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but the other sort of unforeseen issue is not being able to have a dedicated Game Pass app exist on iOS devices, which cuts out a huge percentage of the market. Okay, I understand that you can access, via Safari, etc., but it's not a slick option, is it? And
right, no, it's certainly not. It's not even close.
No, it's not. It's not that console gaming experience that you want, right? And I'm not saying it's bad, because I'm glad that Microsoft or Xbox have found a workaround. That's all great, but I think and it is early in the morning, Boom, so my brain's not as good as it normally is. But and Crispy still hasn't offered me any coffee. So but you've got to just look at the situ right over at Nintendo, who are comprehensively, I should say, demonstrating that handheld devices that also dock in their case and connects to a big screen are in fact in vogue and pretty much still in huge demand. And it's never been clearer when you see that the Switch, a dedicated handheld system, because it doesn't really matter about the power, it's all about the content, right? Which is it today that they're seeing another iteration of the system launch today, or with the Metroid game? And let's be honest, the Switch is outpacing the sales of the fabled PS4 and PS Pro, and even more so, I would say they're flatlining PS5 sales in comparison. Look, flatlining is a little strong given the chip shortages, but not when you compare first-party software sales. And with all that sort of, I mean, this is all just common sense and common knowledge, right? With that all sort of unraveling before our eyes, let alone the information that Microsoft got, the potential, the volume and the strategic value, I think, as you were sort of pointing towards, Boom, surely all that information can't be wasted or be invisible to fill an Xbox.
Yes, great point.
And Xbox know that they know where they are currently, where they stand today, and where they want to stand in the future is not guaranteed, even with 30 million subscribers and a glut of studios, right? Whatever you think of them, right? And you have to, in this industry, and like in all industries, I would guess, you have to continually prove yourself. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is, like, I don't want any of these platform holders, and we as consumers are doing a really good job of this, making sure that they take nothing for granted, especially early adopters such as us. I mean, the console hasn't even hit its first year anniversary, right? Don't take early adopters, gamers, communities, fans, long-term customers, and unknowing customers and future subscribers for granted, etc., and so on and so forth. So we could just with our three heads and the community in the chat together make a strong case for Xbox to consider and perhaps greenlight more options, be they a handheld Xbox Microsoft device or something else entirely. I don't know if it was forgive me, I don't know if it was Dreadpool or Crispy Bomb that mentioned the dongle, and having a device that's a handheld, or even, dare I say, something that connects to the TV as a combination like the Switch, which may not be necessary to go that far, which, let's be honest, isn't a new concept. It's an old concept. Some of us wanted that ever since the first black and white Game Boy machine appeared in the late 80s and early 90s, right? With a very poorly lit screen, I might add. And I don't know if anyone remembers the Nintendo Light Boy. I do.
I certainly do. I had that.
You got dozens of them, Boom. But anyway, as Nintendo have found, right, this strategy has been a supreme benefit to them. It's a very, I would say, portable gaming done well is a very powerful psychological proposition for consumers. And take into account, as I say, it's not a new one. It was proven 30 years ago, right, with the original Game Boy selling over 100 million units back then.
Yes.
And it wasn't cheap either than back then. So for Phil, it has to be, as it is for us as we're watching Microsoft and their plans unfold, it has to be about options for the public, opportunities potentially affording, as Crispy Bomb said, right, Xbox longer term greater market share, targeting hundreds of millions of gamers or a billion gamers if that's really what they can achieve, right, combined with Sony and Nintendo, because you've got to include their customers as well, right, in the equation, right, in terms of how many console gamers are out there, and a large percentage of the current console gaming is dedicated to the Switch like device. You can't deny that. B, if you can sell 50 million, Boom, or potentially 100 million of a gadget or a device to a captivated audience, it's got to be worth pursuing. And C, if they can afford to initially lose, $100 or $150 a machine, which they can quite comfortably, right? Whereas Nintendo focus on making a profit on each and every device, right, manufactured, right? Where or what could Xbox do with that, $100 or $150 bump invested into the technical heart of each device, right?
Yeah.
Or the screen for that matter, right? And I'm just sort of blowing ideas out here. Obviously, they're not fully formed, and you can blow them out of the water if you want. At least it gives you food for thought. But also, I don't know if it can be as powerful as a Series S or even more so. We don't know, right, how technology has moved on exactly and what they're working on. Only Xbox really know the technical, the development and the fabrication hurdles, right? And the long-term pros and cons from a multitude of R&D and accounting discovery that they've probably already done, right, as part of the R&D. Jason Wallace probably got up at midnight, right, making this thing. So they will need to have done that, and they probably have already done so in order to prepare and launch a system that can truly deliver that on the road, full on portable game. Actually, scratch that bit. But sorry, a fully fledged. This is just going to the point that you made, that you want to be able to have that experience that you have on the big device on your little device. So I think it's got to be a fully fledged Xbox console sort of feature rich experience on the go. I'm really done. Just so you know, just in case everyone's falling asleep. And
no. Listen, dude, you're making fantastic points.
Yeah.
This is why I'm glad you're part of the show each and every week now.
Yeah, I promise I'm done. I promise. It has to be a second to none experience, Boom. Insofar, it should firmly place all other mobile device options in the shade. Still viable options, but place them squarely in the shade in order to make it worthwhile for everyone enamored with the idea, which I am, to go out and support and adopt this, right? This system, right? As a punter, as a consumer, just as a layman, let's look at that from my perspective. I would definitely be interested for sure. Having a dedicated handheld device to complement my Series X makes sense for me, right? Just because of where I am and what I do throughout the day, right? And as Dreadpool was alluding to, right? So for Microsoft and Xbox, I think it's, and this is going back to Crispy, I'm leveraging Crispy Bomb's points here, sorry. For Microsoft and Xbox, it's all about how do we ensure success, and what does success for Xbox look like going forward? If the plan and ambition that they portrayed to shareholders was truthful and not a moonshot, and I'm sort of leaning on that point, when they said 2 or 3 billion gamers, I mean, 2 or 3, I mean, who's arguing, right? It's only a billion difference, but and a large chunk of the future and community, gaming community, let's be honest, is going to be via handheld devices.
Yes.
Especially if it launches, and this is a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, Boom, but especially if that new device launches with an exclusive Marvel character-based game.
Yeah, hello, thank you very much. I'll take that. Yes, you see, you're onto something. I love it. No, I absolutely agree with you, VJ. I think everyone had incredible points, and again, take it as a rumor, because that's what it is. I have it on good authority from a trusted source that they're at least prototyping it. Does that mean it comes out next year? I don't know. Does that mean that it even comes to fruition? No, they prototype tons and tons and tons of devices that we never hear about. But a handheld Xbox with the power potentially of the Series S, in a portable aspect, if there's any one person or team that could do it, it's Jason Ronald and that team. And I would actually like to see it, because like I said, I love the option that Microsoft offers all of their consumers. And one of the options that they're not offering is a dedicated portable device. That is how I would want a game on the go. Now, that's not how you or several people in this chat were like, hey, Boom, no, it's the future. Sure, for you, it's the future. For me, it would be something that it's just going to be available, an option that I'm not going to take advantage of. But if you give me the ability to go out and purchase a device, a Vita-like device, a Nintendo Switch-like device that has Xbox branded on it, and I can play Xbox Game Pass on the go, I think you're onto something. But folks, this has been one hell of a Friday morning with some big topics, lots of big conversation. I know some people are asking about Big Cloud. Yes, he is still a part of the show. He just got hung up with something. He could not be here today. He will be making his grandeur return next week, so don't worry about that. And let's get to the outros and get everyone out of here, because honestly, folks, I'm snapping at the bit here because I got to go pick up my Nintendo OLED, and I freaking can't wait to play Metroid Dread on that bad boy. So let's get to the outros. We'll start first with Dreadpool. Brother, tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, talk about Breaking Bread with Dread, and where can people check that out?
Oh, thank you. Yes, first of all, thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging out with us, keeping it peaceful. I didn't see anybody that we had to like push out with any of that stuff or delete their messages.
Yeah, Boss Mod Lethal Papa actually was sitting back in there with a daiquiri. He was just chilling. Yeah, he was just chilling today.
So yeah, it's great. I don't know if you guys saw it, right? There's the portable, right? They just announced it. It's a Switch, I guess. I don't know what's going on with that, but I guess it's a Halloween thing.
Oh
Whatever.
my god, that's hilarious.
So you can find me at Dreadpool Twitter. It's the O's are actually zeros. If you just look up linktree.com/Dreadpool, all letters, it's got the links to everything. Anchor FM, where Breaking Bread with Dread is on.
Nice.
It's got the, oh, by the way, Boom, I don't know if you noticed, I've got the t-shirt thing. What is it, Teespring?
Oh,
And
nice, dude. I did not notice that.
It's called
Awesome.
just a hint, because
Okay.
you know, with Nintendo being the way they are, it's called Planet Dread, and it's Metroid Dread with pool written in blood.
Oh, I love it.
So-
That's awesome, dude.
So yeah, I wore it to the Comic-Con and people loved it. I've actually had people like, "What's that? What's that?" I'm like, "It's the new game. It's just a spin on it." They're like, "There's a new game?" So yeah, it's hysterical. But yeah,
That's
definitely
great.
check it out. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Game will be on the box.
Yes,
I'm
Wilmy
also-
Hood, that the man. And you guys have a great panel over there.
Thank you. Well, we got Scrub Nurse, we got Husk, Fork Boy,
Lady AF.
yeah, all of them. Leo, Bomber. I mean, we got so many to name. Who else do we have? We got Wicked Seed, which pops in here and there. I mean, the leader, right? Wilby Hood.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
but yeah, we do all these little skits. We do all this extra stuff, streaming. Cloud is also streaming some stuff, doing the interviews. I'm sorry, not interviews, but reviews and impressions. I'm also part of the creator feature now with Husk.
Nice.
It's just the month of October is hard because I'm haunting in the woods now, doing the haunted house that I sponsor.
Yes.
So all over the place. And then obviously right here, Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Don't miss out on the breakfast stuff.
Start your
do.
weekend off right.
Yes, exactly.
I like it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Dread.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate having you a part of this panel each and every week. And obviously we are better for it. Crispy Bomb, let's get you on out of here. Tell everyone where they can check out you on social media, but more importantly, what other shows are you on, and where could people potentially get cut in half using your very skilled chainsaw?
Oh, always a pleasure, gentlemen. VJ, welcome to the show. Dreadpool, as usual, brother, and Boom, the best host there is. And
Thank you, sir.
Shout out to the chat. Yes, the band Hammer did not have to come out, which is very
That's
nice.
awesome.
We like to
That's
see
a good
that.
day,
So-
man. That's a great day.
But it's at Crispy Bomb on Twitter, Crispy Bomb 28 Xbox Live. You can find me on Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We got the next podcast Thursday, 8 p.m. prime time. And of course, back here Friday morning, 10 a.m. Breakfast with Boom.
Thank you so much for that. Real quick, Sean Carpenter drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Hey guys, did you watch the Hoonigan Halo truck build? If not, check it out." Yeah, I did on YouTube. That was dope.
was very cool.
That is really, really cool. And the fact that it actually works, well, there you go. But listen, VJ, it was great to have you on the Xbox Factor podcast on Thursdays. It's even better to have you here on Primetime Gaming on Breakfast with Boom every Friday morning. You brought it like you always did, and we are a better panel for it. You brought the your think tank with you, and of course, you made a lot of great sense. Tell everyone where they could reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, what else you got going on?
I just wanted to say, Boom, I really appreciate all the message of support from the community in the chat, and I hope I replied to each and every one of you that reached out today.
People love you, VJ. I told you, man, this is a conversational podcast. We love having you.
It's and I just want to say, I think Dreadpool was right. It's been far too long since I've spoken to him and to Crispy Bomb. So thank you for making me feel welcome. I didn't mean to gate crash your shows and join you guys, but I have to thank Boom for that opportunity. So yeah, Boom. So I just wanted to say, I know we to sort of discuss rumors and stuff, but I think those rumors, you're doing yourself a disservice, because I think that they are fantastic what if scenarios, possibilities, and topics that make for a fantastic podcast. And I, for one, really enjoyed contributing to today's topics and the show. So thank you for the opportunity. And you can find me on Wednesdays on a sort of quaint higgledy-piggledy British show called Midweek Gaming with Stubbs Gaming and Co. He's probably going to call me and have a go at me now. But anyway, that's how I see it. So yeah, thanks, Boom. Everyone have a great weekend. And again, Boom, yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's really
thank you, brother. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And folks, listen, I just want to say thank you again for being here. We had over 350 people here, which is awesome. Again, I'll say it. I said it in the opening of the show. If you are a fan of this program, if you are a fan of anyone that has put their hat in the ring, Ains, obviously, BitCloud Gaming, Mr. Bear, and there's so many others. If your favorite YouTuber has thrown their hat into the ring to potentially be one of these, top 50 creators for the world, folks, and just the world. If you are one of these creators, and I don't think I'm even going to come remotely close. The channel is too small. I get it. But you know what? You got to be in it to win it. And if your favorite content creator has thrown their name into the hat, support them. Support them. Fill out the application. Take the 10 minutes to do it. You don't understand how big of a deal it would be if one of these content creators, one of your favorite content creators, gets picked, and is in this top 50 class of 2021. The Game Awards, whether you love it, you hate it, or otherwise, and I happen to really enjoy it, is one of the most watched video game award shows every year. Millions upon millions of people watch this, and it would be life-changing for that said content creator. So again, you don't have to drop super chats. You don't have to become channel members. Most of us will simply be happy with just a like and and you subscribe to the channel, which I think I'm like 60 away from 9,000, which is amazing. But it's these kind of situations that if you really care about your content creator, regardless of who that is, get out there and do this for them. It would be bigger than they have words to respond. And of course, I want to say thank you so much for the super chats that continue to come in. They power this show. They allow Mrs. Boom and I to do big giveaways, and we have another one coming up at the end of the month. I'm not ready to talk about it, but I will be talking about it very soon. Have a great weekend. Enjoy gaming on whatever device you enjoy gaming in, and we will see you next week. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. Also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.